basically, in a very, let's say, reduced term of time, I'd love simply to talk about what we are doing in order to, let's say, promote urban forestation, urban forestry all over the world. Basically, the issue is to try to transform city in the first region of global warming, climate change, and at the same time, the first victims, thanks to the flooding processes that were to protagonists of a campaign to slow down, to tackle climate change. And to do that, I think that the green forest plans are the most, let's say, strong, efficient, inclusive, and less expensive to try to do that. Just we cannot forget that we can do what we can in order to avoid to produce new CO2. But if we talk about how to absorb CO2 already existent in the atmosphere of our planet, basically we have only plants and trees. And so what we can do in order to move and to, let's say, multiplicate the number of forests and woodlands and basically urban green surfaces in urban environment, it's extremely efficient. And so I'd love now to little bit go closer to some projects we're developing where the concept of urban forestation, urban forest is connected with the idea of a circular economy. And the first one is in Mexico, in southeast Mexico. This is Cancun, nearby Cancun, where we've been asked to realize a forest city, smart forest city, in an area which is not so far from the Cancun airport, where a Chinese company was planning to build a huge mall. So they had already destroyed part of the mangrove forest. And we have been asked to imagine something different. And the developer finally came to our proposal and suggestion to realize a kind of new forest city. So basically, this is a city for 130,000 people with 5/6 epicenter around a series of university departments. And basically, this idea is to have a city which is composed by more than 7 million of trees and thousands of other plants. But what I think is interesting in this project basically is this. So the buffer, the perimeter of this new city is composed by solar panels and let's say place for agricultural field where we can imagine to cultivate part of the food requested by the citizen, and where we can imagine how to transform agricultural products into food. So we have worked a lot in this idea of self-sufficiency. So it's not only about sustainability, it's another step, which is self-sufficiency. We were working with TransSolar, which is a German agency for sustainability and self-sufficiency. And we have them as partner in many of our projects. You see here something about the master plan and the idea that this city is not simply green, it's not simply forest, it's not sustainable, it's not simply self-sufficient, but also has a very particular, let's say, layout which helps to make the citizen in condition to have all what they need in 15 minutes, 20 minutes walking time. So I think this is a new horizon in what we can do in the future of the city, and I believe it's a metaphor of what we should do everywhere to transform our urban environment in, let's say, archipelagos of districts, of urban villages, if you prefer the term. So this is how you see some of the version of the city that we have developed, the relation with the greener surfaces and environments, and how water is important. We are not right to the sea, so the process of desalinization are also very important in order to use the water for, let's say, not simply irrigation of the green surfaces, but also as potable water. And that's about the mobility, which has the same criteria. So the buffer around is for private mobility, and then when you enter, it's all about electric mobility and public transportation system. And that you see, it's a diagram of the master plan of this project. We are developing also another project in the nearby between Egypt and Saudi, which is a new city which has the same concept but is in the desert. As you see here, the idea is to have a city which is surrounded by a perimeter, by a buffer of solar panels and agricultural field. So this concept of self-sufficiency is also, if you want here, stressed in order to make the city really working in such a complicated and difficult climate condition like is in the desert, but with the same, let's say, concept of self-sufficiency. And the city is also a city which is basically green, with building of different size and different functions, but all covered by plants, not simply on the roofs, but everywhere. Imagine here we have how to shadow the public ground. So it's a very important concern about how to reduce the heat in this very specific case. And just to conclude, this is a project that is in construction in Tirana, northern Tirana, after the earthquake. But it's a district where the buildings are green, also in this case. And what is important is that it's a district that is so strongly connected with the idea of self-sufficiency, but also with the idea, let's say, of the possibility to make this part of the city affordable for everybody. And the same concept, but also translated in a very clear layout. You see here how these three parts of this basically 15,000 people district are composed in order to make everybody in condition to, let's say, to kind all the function and the utilities that are needed in the daily life, not simply commercial activities, but also schools, health system, and for sure cultural activities in a circle, in a daily cycle of more than 15, 20 minutes. It's also, let's just to conclude, this is where we are introducing, as we're doing the other two examples, some consideration about the post-pandemic condition. It's not simply about what to do in the interiors, where we are working with the idea to, let's say, have a larger space, larger outer space, so outside environment like terraces, balconies, lodges. But it's also very important to study how we can change the nature of the public ground around the buildings, and working on the roofs. So we are working a lot on the roofs. We believe roofs will become what courtyards were in the past. So what we are doing all over the world, it's about also roofs. We're working seriously because roofs are semi-private, semi-public space where people could meet, work, co-work, cultivate things. It's such an important space that has been, in a way, forgotten by the last 3-4 decades of worldwide architecture. And that's basically what we do, and always with the idea that public schools could become, in all our project, epicenter of public life. We believe that schools are the core, the earth of the future of the cities, that public schools could be and should be open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, for all the kind of age. And that's our proposal, and this is, you see, an idea of what we are doing in that. Last thing is very short. It's a project for Genève, it's a Grand Genève, and it's in this idea we are planning to imagine a new metropolitan layout, which is putting together Genève, Swiss, and Annecy, France, with a circular metropolitan environment composed by new villages and assistant villages. But what makes this project important for me is that not simply we are surrounding this new metropolitan constellation with a circle of forest, but that at the center we have a mountain. The Salève is a mountain. It's not a building, it's not a monument, it's not a square, it's a mountain with its biodiversity. And this is, for me, the future of metropolitan environment. Thank you so much for your attention.
Celia?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much, Mr. Boeri. I would like to ask you, what does technology has to do with these projects? Because I think that new networks, 5G connections will be important in the cities, post-pandemic cities, as you said. Regardless of the country, what do you think about the technology in the cities of post-pandemic era?
I already told you, so it's important, it's for sure necessary to use technologies, but it's not simply in one direction. So there is a necessity to improve the technology related with all what is, let's say, the digital connection and immaterial connection. It's important to develop technology in order to make the city so sufficient in terms of renewable energies. It's important to implement technologies connected with transformation of every building in a let's say energetical plant can absorb in energy and distribute all around. So technology is simply one component of the future.